Now, as you know, we have two pairs of swans. You can see our white swans and our black swans. They both grace Italian Lake with their presence, and they've been a wonderful, wonderful addition. I've seen the prom photos, I've seen the romance, and people have come from all over, including children from far and wide, to come see the swans. They've done exactly what we hoped they would do. But when we brought the swans here to Harrisburg, we promised that we would search far and wide for the finest names. And we solicited a naming contest, and name suggestions poured in from throughout the community. And I want to tell you first a few of the names that we are not choosing today. Just because, well, they just didn't quite make the final cut. Of course, it was the popular Swanee McSwan face, named after the boat fiasco in England. I liked the names that had to do with puns, like Lynn Swan and La Swan McCoy, and, well, Ron Swanson. Ron and Leslie were very close from Parks and Recreation, a favorite of mine. They almost made the final cut, but sadly, when I tweeted them, I don't think Ron wanted a swan named after him. Oh. I think he probably would have brought his shotgun, and it wouldn't have been pleasant. We had a lot of pairs, names like Yin and Yang, Alpha and Omega, Samson and Delilah. Yes, well, they were all considered. But I didn't think. But we did have a number of suggestions, and I would like to start by naming our black swans first. And we're going to use a suggestion that came from Mrs. Jean Cutler of Harrisburg. And I think it is appropriate to name them after the two founders of the Harrisburg City Beautiful movement that are really not only responsible for our entire park system and our playground system, but including Italian Lake. And that is Myra Lloyd Dock and J. Horace McFarland. So we shall name them Myra and Horace. All right. I think two phenomenal names.
All right.
And I want to take this moment to just read to you a little something which Horace McFarland wrote about the founding of the City Beautiful movement, which led to Italian Lake back in 1900. He wrote, "It might fairly be said that the real improvement of Harrisburg began with a talk on the City Beautiful presented in December 20th, 1900 by Miss Myra Lloyd Dock before a large number of Harrisburg citizens gathered at the Board of Trade Auditorium. Miss Dock, who was then the energetic founder of the Civic Club, had long been a prophet of improvement. She now showed pictorially the disgusting civic conditions in Harrisburg, contrasting these with the enlightened conditions elsewhere. Hundreds of citizens then realized for the very first time that a rarely beautiful riverbank was not the best place for a public dump, and that a modern city owes its inhabitants, in return for taxation, don't you put that in, something more than police protection, typhoid-laden water, imperfect sewerage, dirty and unpaved streets, and deficient park and playground facilities." And at that moment, in December of 1900, the City Beautiful movement was born. But, of course, at that time, what happened was the media refused to cover it. And I know, what else is new? And I have to say there was also something of a self-serving media suggestion that we named them after I believe it was Christine, Laura, Matt, and I don't know, whoever else did we Dave. And that was good, but Myra Lloyd Dock, when she gave this speech and she had her slides and she was at the Civic Club, couldn't get any coverage and was disappointed. And so she wrote to Horace McFarland what she called literally her swan song. She wrote her swan song and she said, "Well, I'm done. Nobody around here is going to listen to me. I can't get the media to cover anything." You know what Horace McFarland did?
No, what did
He decided he would just pay to take out an ad, and he would pay to put it in the newspaper.
All right.
And he wrote, and I have copies of this telegraph from Horace McFarland to Myra Lloyd Dock for the media. Here, why don't we distribute these? He wrote, and this is true, this is a real document. This is 2 days after the speech. He wrote, and I said, "I do not propose to listen to the swan songs forming on the back of your letter. No, I am going to do something about this." And then, after he wrote and he got publicity in the newspapers, he told a story which relates to the committee. And he said, "Did I tell you, Myra, that one man whom I've always known to be extraordinarily tight with his money," well, that's not the committee, but you know, stopped and told me that he was willing to be one of 50 to give $200 each, provided the city would put in another $10,000 to take up the work for Harrisburg you had in mind in the way of parks and playgrounds, that the most important practical evidence of the force of your presentation. So at that moment, there was a public-private collaboration born, which began the City Beautiful movement. And today, it has manifested itself with the Friends of Italian Lake, with the committee, all of which is working with the city to raise money for our parks and playgrounds. So I think it is a fitting tribute to name them Horace and Myra. And I would also add that we did consider calling the Swans as a group the committee, which I thought was amusing, but nobody else did. So that is our pair of black swans, and I think they will be embraced. But we also wanted a romantic pair of names that really spoke to the Italian nature of Italian Lake. And for that, we chose Romeo and Juliet. And I would like to present Gamut Theater to give a brief ode to our swans, Romeo and Juliet. If you would take the bridge.
Absolutely.
And I would like to thank Ms. Cindy Watkins of Harrisburg for suggesting Romeo and Juliet.
4 swans, all alike in dignity, in fair Italian lake where we lay our seed. If I profane with my unworthiest wing this holy shrine, the gentle sin is this: my beak, 2 nibbling pilgrims ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender peck.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your wing too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have wings that pilgrims' wings do touch, and feather to feather is holy flapper's peck.
Have not saints beaks and holy flappers too?
Aye, pilgrim, beaks they must use in prayer.
Oh then, dear saint, let beaks do what wings do. They pray, grant thou lest faith molt to despair.
Saints do not flap, though grant for prayer's sake.
Then flap not, while my prayers effect I peck.
Romeo, Romeo! Where art thou? You art there. And I wish to say that Gamut Theater is a great partner of our parks as well. This summer's Shakespeare in the Park production, The Merry Wives of Windsor. Everybody needs to come out. And also, back again for another year at Capona.
Absolutely.
Gamut Theater will be providing all of our children's entertainment. So we can't wait for that. And I believe there are still spaces available in summer camp. If you want to go to drama camp, what ages?
From 6 all the way up to 15.
Come and enjoy tutelage from the great actors of our time. So with that, we have named our swans. I hope people will flock from everywhere to come and see them.